Welcome to my channel Starwire Daily. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Picture this. It's a quiet Tuesday evening in the English countryside. Behind the perfectly manicured hedges of a stunning $1.2 million estate, moving trucks are pulling away into the twilight. But this isn't just any move. This is Queen Camilla, the woman who waited decades to wear the crown, quietly establishing what some are calling her escape route, while her husband, King Charles, fights the battle of his life against cancer. Welcome back to Starwire Daily, where we dive deep into the stories that matter most in the world of royalty, celebrity, and scandal. I'm your host, and today we're uncovering a story that has palace insiders whispering and royal watchers around the world holding their breath. Because what we're about to reveal isn't just about real estate. It's about survival, strategy, and perhaps the most calculated move we've ever seen from the woman they once called the other woman. Now, before we dive into this royal bombshell, let me paint you a picture of where we are right now. It's been nearly 2 years since Charles ascended to the throne, fulfilling a destiny he'd waited 7 decades to claim. Camilla, once the most controversial figure in royal history, had seemingly found her footing as queen consort. The public had grudgingly accepted her, the media had softened their tone, and for a brief, shining moment, it looked like this fairy tale might actually have a happy ending. But fairy tales, as we all know, rarely survive reality. And the reality facing the House of Windsor right now is more dramatic than any screenplay Hollywood could dream up. It started in February of this year, with what palace officials called a routine procedure. King Charles, at 75, was admitted to the hospital for what they described as treatment for an enlarged prostate. Standard stuff, they said. Nothing to worry about. But those of us who've been covering the royals for years know that when the palace says nothing to worry about, it's usually time to start paying very close attention. And we were right to be suspicious. Because what came next sent shockwaves through every royal household from Buckingham Palace to the farthest reaches of the Commonwealth. Cancer, the word that changes everything, that stops time, that makes kings mortal and queens. Well, that makes queens start making plans. Now, here's where a story gets really interesting. While the world was focused on Charles's diagnosis, on the outpouring of support, on the carefully orchestrated public appearances designed to show strength and continuity, something else was happening in the shadows. Something that would have made Machiavelli himself proud. Camilla was house hunting. Not just any house hunting, mind you. This wasn't about finding a weekend cottage or a place to host garden parties. Sources close to the situation tell us that throughout the spring and summer, while playing the role of devoted wife and supportive queen, Camilla was quietly, methodically, securing her future. And that future has an address. A breathtaking $1.2 million estate nestled in the heart of the Cotswolds, complete with 8 bedrooms, sprawling gardens, and most importantly, complete privacy from the prying eyes of both the media and the monarchy. But here's what makes this story absolutely fascinating: the timing. Real estate transactions of this magnitude don't happen overnight. They require months of planning, negotiations, financial arrangements. Which means that while Camilla was standing by her husband's hospital bed, while she was fulfilling her royal duties with that practice smile we've come to know so well, she was also orchestrating what might be the most strategic exit plan in royal history. Think about it. This is a woman who waited in the shadows for decades, who endured being called a homewrecker, who faced death threats, who watched the woman Charles truly loved become a global icon while she remained hidden away. Camilla Parker Bowles didn't survive the royal crucible by being naive or unprepared. She survived by being smart, calculating, and always having a plan. Now, I want to be clear about something. We're not suggesting that Camilla doesn't love her husband. The evidence suggests she does, deeply and genuinely. But love and survival aren't mutually exclusive, especially not in the high-stakes world of royalty. And what our sources are telling us paints a picture of a woman who's learned to balance, both with the skill of a master chess player. The property itself tells a story. Located in one of England's most prestigious areas, it's far enough from London to provide genuine privacy, but close enough to remain connected to the power centers that matter. It's substantial enough to maintain the lifestyle she's grown accustomed to, but modest enough to avoid the kind of scrutiny that follows official royal residences. But the real genius in this move isn't about the property itself. It's about what it represents. Because while divorce rumors swirl around the palace like autumn leaves, while Charles's health remains a constant source of concern, while the future of the monarchy itself seems more uncertain than ever, Camilla has ensured that whatever happens next, she'll be landing on her feet. And let's talk about those divorce rumors, shall we? Because they're not just tabloid speculation anymore. Palace insiders, speaking on condition of anonymity, paint a picture of a marriage under extraordinary strain. The pressures of Charles's illness, combined with the relentless demands of the crown, have created what one source describes as a perfect storm of stress and uncertainty. Consider the facts. Charles is 75 years old, battling cancer, carrying the weight of a 1,000-year-old institution on his shoulders. Camilla is 76, thrust into a role she never truly wanted, facing a level of public scrutiny that would break most people. Add to that, mix the constant whispers about her past, the comparisons to Diana that will never truly end, and the very real possibility that Charles's reign might be shorter than anyone hoped. Is it any wonder that cracks might be starting to show? Our sources describe a couple who, while still affectionate in public, have grown increasingly distant in private. Separate schedules, separate interests, and now, apparently, separate living arrangements. The official line is that the new property is simply an investment, a retreat for quiet weekends away from the pressures of royal life. But those of us who've been watching the royals for decades know that nothing they do is ever that simple. Because here's what the palace doesn't want you to know: royal marriages aren't like regular marriages. They can't just call a lawyer and divide up the assets. When you're dealing with a monarchy, every decision has constitutional implications. Every move has to be calculated not just for personal happiness, but for the stability of the institution itself. Which brings us to perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this entire story: the silence. In a world where every royal sneeze makes headlines, where every outfit choice is analyzed to death, Camilla has managed to purchase, renovate, and move into a $1.2 million estate with barely a whisper in the press. That level of discretion doesn't happen by accident. It happens because someone very smart, very experienced, and very well-connected orchestrated it that way. And that someone is Camilla herself. Think back to the woman who managed to maintain a decades-long relationship with the future king while married to someone else, who navigated the treacherous waters of royal protocol to eventually become queen, who survived scandal after scandal to emerge as one of the most respected members of the royal family. That woman didn't get where she is by leaving anything to chance. The new estate isn't just a house. It's a statement. It's a declaration of independence. It's Camilla saying, without saying a word, that whatever comes next, she's prepared. Whether Charles recovers fully and they grow old together on the throne, or whether his health continues to decline and difficult decisions have to be made, or whether the pressures of royal life finally prove too much for their marriage to bear, Camilla has positioned herself to weather any storm. And there's something almost admirable about it, isn't there? In a world where women are often portrayed as victims of circumstance, here's a 76-year-old queen who's taking control of her own narrative. She's not waiting to see what fate has in store. She's not leaving her future in the hands of palace officials or constitutional lawyers or public opinion. She's making her own moves, playing her own game, writing her own ending. But what does this mean for the monarchy itself? Because that's the question that really matters here. Charles's reign was always going to be transitional. Everyone knew that. At his age, with his health concerns, he was never going to be another Elizabeth II, ruling for decades and providing the kind of stability the institution craves. But what happens if the marriage that was supposed to provide him with personal happiness and public respectability starts to crumble? What happens if the woman who was meant to be his partner in this final act starts to distance herself? What happens if Camilla decides that being queen isn't worth the cost? These are the questions keeping palace officials awake at night. Because for all the constitutional protocols and centuries of tradition, the monarchy ultimately depends on people. Flawed, complicated, human people who fall in love and fall out of love, who get sick and get scared, who make decisions based not just on duty, but on survival and happiness and hope. And here's where the story gets even more complicated. William and Catherine, the next generation, watching all of this unfold, knowing that whatever decisions Charles and Camilla make now will directly impact their own future. Sources close to the Cambridge household suggest they're deeply concerned about the instability at the top, about the message being sent to the public, about the precedent being set. Because if Charles and Camilla can essentially live separate lives while maintaining the facade of royal unity, what does that say about the institution? If the king and queen can quietly arrange their own private arrangements while publicly playing their roles, where does that leave the concept of duty and service that the monarchy is supposed to represent? But let's step back from the constitutional implications for a moment and remember that we're talking about real people here. A 75-year-old man fighting cancer while trying to fulfill the role he's waited his entire life to play. A 76-year-old woman who's endured decades of public scrutiny and private pain to stand beside him. Two people who found love later in life and are now discovering that sometimes love isn't enough to overcome the challenges that life throws at you. There's a tragedy in this story beneath all the palace intrigue and real estate transactions and royal protocol. Because whatever else you might say about Charles and Camilla, they genuinely seem to care for each other. The moments of tenderness we've seen in public appear real. The way she looks at him during official events suggests genuine affection. The way he lights up when she's near him feels authentic. But authentic feelings don't always survive extraordinary circumstances. And the circumstances facing this couple right now are about as extraordinary as they get. The pressure of the crown, the scrutiny of the world, the uncertainty of Charles's health, the weight of history itself bearing down on them every single day. Maybe Camilla's new estate isn't an escape route. Maybe it's just a safety valve, a place where she can be herself instead of the queen, where she can breathe without protocol officers watching her every move, where she can process the enormous changes and challenges in her life without the world analyzing every expression on her face. Or maybe it's both. Maybe it's a retreat and an exit strategy, a place of refuge that could become a place of exile, depending on how the next chapter of the story unfolds. Because that's the thing about the royals that we sometimes forget. They have to plan for scenarios most of us can't even imagine. They have to think not just about what they want, but about what the institution needs, what the public will accept, what history will judge. And Camilla, perhaps more than anyone, understands the precarious nature of royal life. She's seen how quickly public opinion can turn, how rapidly circumstances can change, how important it is to have options when you're operating at the highest levels of public life. So, where does this leave us? With a king fighting for his health and his reign, a queen securing her future, and a monarchy facing questions about its stability and relevance that go far beyond any individual marriage or personal decision. The $1.2 million estate in the Cotswolds isn't just a real estate transaction. It's a symbol of the uncertainty facing the royal family, the changing nature of modern monarchy, and the very human drama playing out behind the palace walls. Whether Camilla's move represents a sensible precaution or the first step toward a royal separation, only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The woman who once waited in the shadows has learned to plan for every possibility, to secure her own future while fulfilling her public duties, to play the long game even when the immediate stakes couldn't be higher. And in a strange way, there's something quintessentially royal about that. The ability to smile in public while planning in private, to fulfill duty while preparing for change, to balance personal needs with public expectations. It's what royalty has always been about, really. The performance of stability while navigating the chaos of real life. The story of Queen Camilla and her quiet move to a $1.2 million estate is still being written. The rumors of divorce may prove to be just that, rumors. Charles's health may improve dramatically. The marriage may strengthen under pressure rather than fracture. But regardless of what happens next, this moment will be remembered as the time when a queen took control of her own destiny, when a most calculated woman in royal history made perhaps her most calculated move yet. What do you think? Are we witnessing the beginning of the end for Charles and Camilla? Or is this simply a smart woman making smart choices in uncertain times? Have we underestimated Camilla's strategic thinking all these years? Or are we reading too much into what might just be a practical real estate decision? The royal watchers among you probably have strong opinions about this, and I want to hear them. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are you Team Camilla for securing her future? Or do you think she should be standing by her husband no matter what? And if you're fascinated by these kinds of royal revelations, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because trust me, this story is far from over. The monarchy has survived scandals before, from abdications to divorces to deaths that shook the nation. But each crisis changes the institution, forces it to adapt, reveals new truths about the people behind the crowns and titles. Whatever happens next in this royal drama, you'll hear about it first right here on Starwire Daily. Because when it comes to the secrets, scandals, and strategies of the rich, famous, and royal, we're always watching, always digging, always ready to bring you the stories that matter. Until next time, keep watching the skies and the palaces, because you never know when the next bombshell is going to drop.